CBS News coverage of Campaign 88 continues. Tonight from Atlanta, Georgia, the third session of the Democratic National Convention. From CBS News Convention headquarters inside the Omni Arena, here again is Dan Rather.
And back at the convention hall, Jesse Jackson has sent word that he does not intend to come to the hall tonight, saying that the focus should be on the nomination of Michael Dukakis and the delegates this evening. Speaker Jim Wright is speaking just now from the podium as part of the build-up to the actual nominating vote, which you're going to see and hear shortly. While we wait for that, former Vice President of the United States and former Democratic Party nominee for President of the United States, Walter Mondale, is with us. Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us. And we've all been through what Governor Clinton just went through, that you feel the audience slipping away, and I think you said a broken leg doesn't hurt as much as that sinking feeling.
Not only that, there's no cure for it. I know what Governor Clinton, one of our really gifted young public leaders, was doing tonight. His task was to begin to describe in some detail who Michael Dukakis is to the millions of Americans who don't know him. His superb record, his chief executive, his family life, his various victories as governor, and about his character, so people could understand him. That was his job. But this is an audience that Humphrey used to say likes raw meat. They want to get going. And so his job was a little different than what the audience wanted right now.
And a tough job.
It is.
Mr. Vice President, do you think this agreement, this unity, all this harmony between Michael Dukakis and Jesse Jackson can last much past Labor Day?
I'm certain of it. I think the real story of this convention, and I'm afraid to say unlike mine, was the way in which Dukakis has been able to get control and command. He did it in the nomination. He made a very courageous choice in Benson. That's broadening the base and selling it. And now he's made this understanding with Jesse Jackson on terms that fully protects his stature and leadership as the party leader in the presidential campaign. The real story of this convention, and I've been to a lot of them, is Michael Dukakis is in command.
He's in command, but does it really matter?
I think it matters a lot. Every time the Democrats fight, seriously, the public sees that, and they say, well, you're not in control of yourself, you can't control government. The last time we had a decently unified convention was '76, and we won. '84 was pretty good, but not good enough. '80 was terrible. You remember '68 defeated Hubert Humphrey, so that the public looks at us, and if we look unified, if we've got a leader who can put things together, that's what a president does in a democracy, and that's what Dukakis has done, they're liable to say, well, I think they're ready to govern again.
Mr. Vice President, we have only a few seconds left because the process is going to start so shortly. But has it been an honest convention by not mentioning taxes even in the platform? You took the gutsy shot in 1984 and mentioned taxes. Is it really honest to go through a convention and not talk about it?
I think it's honest because some things have changed. Defense spending's off substantially. The Social Security trust fund's building substantial reserves. While we still have a serious problem, we're moving into a safety zone where that sort of thing is not as crucial as I thought it was in 1984. A serious problem. Dukakis, as you know, has talked about a major new effort to collect from people who aren't paying taxes illegally, and I think that makes a lot of sense. One final point, if you got just 1 minute. In 1984, we answered all your questions. We put out our budget. We put out our details. We told how we were going to raise revenues. We put out a platform that answered every single question and questions that hadn't been asked. And we got killed.
You carried one state.
Yeah, my own state. And meanwhile, my opponent was talking about mourning in America, about picket fences and puppy dogs, and wouldn't answer any question. And so, you know, I think what's happening now, there's an environment in which people who want to run for president keep it general.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us.
Thanks
a lot.
Thank you.
Now, our CBS News coverage of the vote for nomination of President of the United States will take up after these messages.
Hungry this morning?
You bet.
Good, because to stack up to the vitamins in one bowl of total, it takes almost 3 bowls of Special K.
Trudy, all of the grape nuts.
Takes 4 bowls of that.
Watch this. shredded wheat.
12 bowls.
Good, Delaney. Separate checks, please.
Total has 100% of 9 vitamins and iron and is rich in calcium. That's a stack of nutrition in just 1 bowl.
Now when you buy Total or Total Cornflakes, we'll kick in a pair of Legs Active Support pantyhose free. That's a $4.49 value, free from Total.
Americans are eating healthier than ever, or so they think. Even healthy foods may not be as healthy cooked in oil, margarine, or butter. But all-natural Pam no-stick cooking spray adds only 1/10 the fat and calories of those things and keeps food light and delicious. The choice is yours. These or all-natural Pam, because how you cook is as important as what you cook.
Well, as we await the beginning of the actual roll call, let's go to Diane Sawyer on the podium to talk about Bill Clinton and Michael Dukakis. Diane?
Well, Dan, I just thought I'd tell you now that Bill Clinton's speech is over and the first part of the portrait has been painted of the governor. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the governor's speech itself. I'm told that it has been virtually written, that it is going to be a personal speech about his childhood, his dreams, his ambitions, pocketbook issues in the country, and that he's going to speak Spanish in it. But I was also told that they were going to spend a lot of time today and tomorrow working on what they call infusing a little music into the speech, since convention halls have memories, and apparently Jesse Jackson's speech is still presumed to be ringing in the rafters here. Dan?
Thank you, Diane. I know you meant to say Governor Dukakis' speech, the one he will deliver. Leslie Stahl is in the Indiana delegation, a region feeling left out of all this.
That's right, Dan. This convention is focused so much on the South, where you're in Atlanta, the vice president, the keynote speaker, both from Texas, the nominating speaker from Arkansas. I'm standing here with Lee Hamilton, congressman of Indiana, one of the people considered for vice president. Does the Midwest feel neglected with all this focus on the South?
Oh, I don't think so. We're going to be very important in this election. Governor Dukakis cannot win without getting support in the Midwest.
But let's be frank about Indiana. Indiana has not gone Democratic in a quarter of a century. It's almost like Utah. Can this ticket possibly turn that around?
Well, I think it's possible, but you're right about Indiana.
Leslie, excuse me, we're going to have to turn this interview around right now. I really hate to interrupt it, but we're going to have to turn it around because the roll call vote is beginning. Our deep apologies to the congressman, but we don't want to miss the roll call. Dorothy Bush is at the podium, and the roll call is beginning.
Alabama!
Madam Secretary.
Incidentally, let me tell you all, I will call the state and the number of votes that state is entitled to. I will attempt to get the correct number, but Sandy is taking those numbers with the earphones over the phone from the chairman. So then she will announce the result of each state as it comes up. You know, of course, the total as it goes along will be shown on the board. Thank you. All right, Alabama ready?
Alabama's ready, Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
John Baker. Go ahead.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Jim Folsom from Alabama, Madam Secretary.
Great. I'm glad to see your mom's a delegate, too.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary, Alabama is honored to cast the first votes, which will begin this historical march from Atlanta to Washington to reclaim the White House for the Democrats in November. Alabama cast its votes, 28 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 37 votes for the next President of the United States, Mike Dukakis, Governor of Massachusetts.
Alabama cast 28 votes for Jesse Jackson and 37 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Alaska, 17.
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
I'm Steve Cooper, the governor of the state of Alaska, which produces more oil for the people of this country than any other state in the Union. Alaska votes for Governor Michael Dukakis, 9 votes. For Reverend Jesse Jackson, 7 votes. For Senator Lloyd Bentsen, 1 vote. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Madam Secretary, Alaska votes 7 for Michael Dukakis.
No.
Excuse me, 9 for Michael Dukakis, 7 for Jesse Jackson, and 1 for Benson.
Arizona, 43 votes.
Madam Secretary, as the nation's newest governor, I am proud to announce Arizona's vote. Arizona, the home of the Grand Canyon, the ideal site for the conducting super collider, and our own native sons, Morris K. Udall and Senator Dennis D. Concini. Arizona casts 28 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis, and 14 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Last time Arizona voted Republican in a presidential election was 1948.
And 14 votes for Jesse Jackson.
Arkansas, 48 votes.
Madam Chairman, Arkansas is not ready with its totals as yet.
Okay. The rules call for me to pass Arkansas at the moment, and I will not come back to Arkansas until I have finished the roll call, and at that time I'll come back and pick up any states. I do hope that all of you are working with your delegations, though, so that we can get the total in as soon as possible. Wow. California, 363 votes.
McCarthy, State Chair of the California delegation. California passes.
That's understandable.
Part of the plan to have California put Dukakis over the top, if possible.
Louis Sewell, Chair of the Colorado delegation, Chair of the state of the Great Divide, but where the waters flow to all parts, uniting this nation. Chair of a state where we do more than cherish our environment, where we elect good Democrats who protect it. Colorado cast 37 votes for Michael Dukakis and 18 votes for Jesse Jackson.
Madam Secretary, Colorado casts 37 votes for Michael Dukakis and 18 votes for Jesse Jackson.
The state of Connecticut, 63 votes.
Governor Bill O'Neill reports for the state of Connecticut, the Constitution state, 16 votes for Jesse Jackson, 47 votes for Michael Dukakis, our neighbor to the north.
Connecticut cast 16 votes for Jesse Jackson and 47 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Delaware, 19. Yes, sir.
Historic Delaware, the state that started our nation by being the first to ratify the Constitution, proudly casts 7 votes for the Reverend Jackson, 2 votes for Senator Biden, 1 superdelegate absent due to illness, and 9 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Well, the plan is underway. Heard California pass to have California be the state that puts Michael Dukakis over the top. And then after that happens, Willie Brown of California will move to make the nomination unanimous. That's the plan.
Madam Chairperson, I'm Marion Barry, Mayor of Washington, D.C., soon to be governor of the state of New Columbia. A city which cares so much about its youth has promised and delivered for 4 years in a row. Summer jobs for each and every one of them, 24,000 jobs this summer. 650,000 people who are voteless but not hopeless cast 7 votes for Dukakis. And the person who's kept hope alive for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, 18 votes.
The District of Columbia cast 7 votes for Michael Dukakis and 18 votes for Jesse Jackson.
My home state of Florida. You know, I keep moving around.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Your home state, the great state of Florida, and the state of choice for 1,000 new residents each day. The state which represents the future and the best of America. The state that will set the pace for a Democratic victory in November is proud to cast 116 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis. 35 votes for the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Madam Secretary, the vote in your home state is 116 for Michael Dukakis and 35 for Jesse Jackson.
The great state of Georgia, where we are fortunate to be meeting. 94 votes. 94 votes for Georgia.
Madam Secretary, the great host state of Georgia, the home of our last great Democratic President of the United States, Jimmy Carter.
Oh, is he down there? Oh, he's there? Oh, there he is. He's right down there in the delegation.
And that great president that is seated here tonight voting on this ballot for the next president of the United States that we're very, very appreciative of, cast 42 votes for Jesse Jackson. And for the next president of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis, 50 votes.
Georgia cast 42 for Jesse Jackson and 50 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis.
The state of Hawaii, 28 votes.
Madam Secretary, John Waihee, Governor of Hawaii, the great state of Hawaii, this nation's best example of the Rainbow Coalition and America's link to its Pacific future, proudly casts 8 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 19 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Hawaii cast 8 votes for Jesse Jackson and 19 for Michael Dukakis.
Idaho, 24 votes. Way up there.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
The state of Idaho, the land of scenic beauty and obviously the home of the great potato, votes, 3 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 20 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
And rolling off that kind of language is what makes this roll call such a piece of Americana.
20 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Illinois, 200 votes.
Madam Chairman, Illinois, the land of Lincoln, the breadbasket of America, was proud to offer the Democratic Party and the people of Illinois 2 of our most distinguished citizens as candidates for President of the United States. U.S. Senator Paul Simon and the Reverend Jesse Jackson. We are proud tonight to cast 57 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 138 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
And along with Texas and California, Illinois expected to be one of the big battleground states of this coming campaign. The Democrats haven't carried it since 1964 when Illinois went for Lyndon Johnson.
The state of Indiana, 89 votes.
The delegation from Indiana, where a resurgent Democratic Party and Evan Bayh will end 20 long years of decline and job losses under Republican governors, is proud to ask our honorary co-chairs to deliver our vote. Along with Vice Chair Arlene Rogers and Jackson co-chair Julia Carson, we proudly introduce our nominees for the U.S. Senate, Jack Wicks, and Evan Bayh's running mate, Lieutenant Governor Frank O'Bannon.
The state of Indiana, where Midwestern values of saving, family, and integrity will find a friend in Mike Dukakis, cast its votes as follows.
The great Hoosier state cast votes for that great visionary statesman Jesse Jackson, 18 votes. For that great innovative leader for the 1990s, Michael Dukakis, 69.5 votes.
Indiana has cast 18 votes for Jesse Jackson.
And the plan remains on track for go through the roll call with California passing and then have California put Dukakis over the top.
61
votes. Secretary, the state of Iowa, where Michael Dukakis' marathon race for the presidency began, is united this evening. United in our determination to put Iowa in the Dukakis-Benson column in November, and united in casting 49 votes for our next president, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Iowa casts all 49 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis. I'm sorry, Iowa cast 61 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Kansas, 45.
Madam Secretary, the great state of Kansas, the home of the world champion Kansas University Jayhawks, the wheat state, the air capital of the world, proudly casts 15 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 30 votes for the next president, Michael Dukakis.
Kansas has cast 15 votes
Kansas,
for
a state
Jesse
where the
Jackson
Republicans
and
could
30
possibly
votes
get
for
their
Michael
vice presidential
Dukakis.
candidate, either Senator Bob Dole or Senator Nancy
The state
Kassebaum.
of Kentucky, 65 votes, way up there.
Madam Secretary, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the great bluegrass state, passes.
The state of Kentucky passes. Louisiana, 76 votes.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, indeed.
The great state of Louisiana, the home of the New Orleans Superdome, and the next location for the Democratic National Convention, proudly cast 41 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis, 33 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 1 vote for Congressman Dick Gephardt.
There are many delegates outside the hall who can't get inside to see the vote. The hall has been closed for some time. At one point, at least, Ann Richards, who made the keynote speech on Monday night, the Texas State Treasurer, was locked out of the hall. But this is part of the price paid for having such a small hall in which to hold the convention.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the great state of Maine proudly cast 17 votes for its good friend and good neighbor from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that great governor and the next president of the United States, Michael Dukakis.
Yeah.
And 12 votes for an inspirational leader in the Democratic Party, Jesse Jackson.
Maine has cast 12 votes for Jesse Jackson and 17 votes for Michael Dukakis.
The state of Maryland, 84 votes.
one of the stronger Democratic states.
Bay, steamed crab, crab cakes, site of the first Dukakis, push debate, Maryland with pride cast, 25 votes for Reverend Jesse Jackson, 59 votes for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis.
Maryland cast 25 votes for Jesse Jackson and 59 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Now, this next one, I'm going to really try and pronounce it correctly because a few conventions ago I had a hard time, but no more. Massachusetts, 119 votes.
Madam Secretary, Massachusetts passes.
Massachusetts, Louisiana, California, and Arkansas have passed thus far
The state of Michigan.
in this plan to have
162
California
votes.
be the state that puts Dukakis over the top.
Michigan, the Great Lakes State, home of the Detroit Tigers, the Michigan State University Spartans, the University of Michigan Wolverines, proudly casts its votes as follows. For the Reverend Jesse Jackson, 80 votes.
I'm sorry, just a minute. May I have that vote again?
For the Reverend Jesse Jackson,
Yes,
80
sir.
votes.
80. Okay, go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis, 80 votes.
Do you have 2 delegates missing?
And 2 abstentions.
Dorothy Bush has been doing this for the Democratic National Committee since 1944.
80 votes for Jackson, 80 votes for Dukakis, and 2 abstain.
The state of Minnesota.
Madam Chairman, Minnesota, home of the world-class champions Hubert Humphrey, Walter Mondale, and the Minnesota Twins. And the first win outside native New England for our next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis, cast their votes as follows. 3 for Representative Richard Stallings, 29 for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 57 for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Minnesota, of course, the only state that was carried by the Democrats in the last presidential election, the home state of Walter
29
Mondale.
for Jesse Jackson and 3 for Stallings.
The state of Mississippi. Actually, the state where I was born, so I'm mighty proud of that delegation.
So are we.
Oh, thank you.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, Governor.
I'm Ray Mabus, Governor of Mississippi. Mississippi united as a delegation and as a people, moving beyond the politics of race to help lead this country in education and jobs, making sure that Mississippi will never be last again. Cast 26 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 19 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis.
Mississippi leans Republican, but Jesse Jackson could be an important factor in this state.
Votes for Jesse Jackson,
Turning out
and 19
the black vote
votes for Michael
could be the
Dukakis.
difference in Mississippi.
The state of Missouri.
Dick Gephardt's state, Missouri, the Show Me State, will show the way to turn democratic differences into unity as we cast 37 votes for Jesse Jackson and 50 votes for the next president, Michael Dukakis.
Missouri has cast 37 votes for Jesse Jackson and 50 votes for Michael Dukakis.
The state of Montana with 28 votes.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
the Big Sky state of Montana, the home of former Senate Majority Leader and Ambassador Mike Mansfield, and proud of it, cast
I don't
5
blame you.
votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, a man who has made all Americans stand a little taller, and 22 votes for my fellow governor and our future leader, Mike Dukakis.
Montana, of course, one of those western states where the Democrats have had so much trouble in recent years, and where this time they're hoping that Texan Lloyd Benson, with his energy background, can be of some
State
help.
of Nebraska, right down here.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the great state of Nebraska, the Good Life state, and the Cornhusker state cast its vote as follows.
We proudly cast our votes, 8 for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis, 22 votes.
Nebraska has cast 8 votes for Jesse Jackson and 22 votes for Michael Dukakis.
The state of Nevada, 23 votes.
Madam Secretary, Nevada's ballots will be cast by David Phillips, the chairman of the Jesse Jackson delegation, and Mona Joplin, the whip for Governor Michael Dukakis.
Madam Secretary, from that battle-born state of Nevada, the home of the UNLV running rebels, the home of the Democratic Congressman Jimmy Bilbray, our Democratic Senator, United States Senator Harry Reid, and the next Democratic United States Senator Richard Bryan, we cast 5 battle-earned votes for the next President of the United States, Jesse Jackson. Keep hope alive.
The voice you hear repeating these votes is that of Sandy Perlmutter, who is Assistant Secretary of the DNC. This is, of course, Dorothy Bush.
Now it is.
Madam Secretary, Nevada, the Silver State, proudly casts 16 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis. Nevada has cast 5 votes.
This is the voice of Sandy Perlmutter. We're told she runs 10 miles a day, and after sitting through Governor Clinton's speech and all of this, you can understand why she tries to get her stamina up.
New Hampshire, home of the first in the nation primary, is proud to support unanimously our friend and neighbor, a great governor, Michael Dukakis, and casts its 22 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Dukakis.
New Hampshire has cast 22 votes for Governor Michael Dukakis.
Another big state, New Jersey, with 126 votes.
Madam Secretary.
Wait a minute.
Madam Secretary, to give our vote, I give you Senate President John Russo, our first Dukakis supporter.
Madam Secretary, on behalf of our 8 million proud Americans from all walks of life, proud of our state and proud of our 2 greatest United States Senators, Frank Lautenberg and Bill Bradley. This delegation that first proved that in diversity there is unity. We cast 19 votes for a man who has excited our hearts and pointed the way to the future, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And for a man we have come to love and who will bring all Democrats back home again and lead us to victory in November, New Jersey proudly cast 107 votes for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis.
A reminder there that Michael Dukakis is quoted as having said in private that he really would have liked to have had Bill Bradley run on the ticket with him, but Senator Bradley of New Jersey made it clear early that he simply would not be interested in the slightest. Not this year.
Madam Secretary, New Mexico, the state enchanted by its many cultures, colonized before Plymouth Rock, land of the turquoise sky, and the proud home of U.S. Senator Jeff Bingaman, and Representative Bill Richardson cast 8 votes for the outstanding American, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 22 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
When he says New Mexico was colonized before Plymouth Rock, he's talking about the Spanish colonization of the state, and that's a state where the Spanish-speaking Dukakis-Benson ticket might feel that it could spring an upset.
New York, 292 votes.
Madam Secretary and my friend Dorothy Bush,
Thank you.
the great state of New York, the Empire State, is proud to be unified tonight in support of what will be the greatest presidential election this party has had in a number of years. This party is led by Mario Cuomo, the greatest governor in the United States of America. And I'm proud to stand with Representative Chuck Schumer from the Dukakis campaign and Borough President of Manhattan, David Dinkins, from the Jackson campaign, and proudly cast 97 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 194 votes for Michael S. Dukakis.
Well, New York is one of those states the Republicans believe to be in their column at the present time. Believe it'll go for Vice President George Bush. But again, the Democrats think that if they can hold themselves together, the Jackson-Dukakis-Benson ticket stands better than an even chance.
Check it, because that's not what I had. North Carolina.
Madam Secretary.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't announce your votes. North Carolina, 95 votes.
Madam Secretary, and we're proud of all 95 votes. North Carolina, the state of opportunity and beauty. From the magnificent Smoky Mountains through the productive Piedmont to the majestic Atlantic Ocean. Very proudly says that North Carolina, the greatest state in America, is not only going to help return the White House to the Democratic Party, but to return the State House in North Carolina to the Democratic Party. North Carolina very proudly casts 35 votes for the outstanding Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 58 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
North Carolina, a state that generally votes Democratic in recent years in presidential elections, but the Democratic Party's been rebuilding there, and it's one of the southern states where they have some reason to believe that Dukakis perhaps could upset.
The state of North Dakota, 22 votes.
Madam Secretary,
yes, sir.
The northernmost state of the Great Plains, North Dakota, which in 1989 celebrates its 100th anniversary into the entry of the greatest nation on earth, home of Senator Ken Conrad, which will in 1988 return to office as distinguished Senator Quentin Burdick and re-elect its dynamic Congressman Byron Dorgan, and its strong governor, George Center, cast 30 votes for Jesse Jackson, 17 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Dukakis, and 2 votes not present.
George, I'm sorry. I didn't get the vote. I want to be
3
sure.
votes for Jesse.
All right, 3 votes for Jesse Jackson. How many for...
Part of the American process, part of the experiment in a republic based on democratic principles, the nomination of a president of the United States.
All righty.
North Dakota has
The plan here to have California put Michael Dukakis over the top, so California passed early on.
The state of Ohio.
Madam Secretary.
183 votes.
Madam Secretary, the state of Ohio, proud of its 2 extraordinary United States senators,
John Glenn, and Howard Metzenbaum, who we will return to the United States Senate this year, casts 46 votes for that extraordinary voice for the future, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. One person not voting, and 136 votes for the person who will lead this nation into the 1990s, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Ohio, without John Glenn on the ticket, generally considered to be a toss-up, a key swing state. And again, along with California, Texas, Illinois, and New York, it will be one of the major battle scenes during the campaign.
State of Oklahoma, 56 votes.
Madam Secretary, the state of Oklahoma, a state committed to excellence, strong in its faith in America's future, a state that will be in the Democratic column this November. For the sake of allowing an important statement of Democratic unity later in this roll call, moving us toward victory in November, passes at this time.
Oklahoma, usually a strong Republican state, but Lloyd Bentsen could help there. The state's hurting because of what's happened to oil and gas.
I called the state of Iowa. That vote was taken incorrectly, and I am very sorry. And before I continue with the roll call, I'm advised I should return and call the state of Iowa. And let's be sure we get the mic on and get the right vote recorded, because I'm doing this with a pen and I don't like a scratchy, messy roll call. Iowa, 61 votes.
Madam Chairman, Iowa, the state where it all began, cast 49 votes for Michael Dukakis and 12 votes for Jesse Jackson.
Good job, guys.
Iowa has cast 49 for Michael Dukakis and 12 for Jesse Jackson.
This, as Dorothy Bush pointed out, was just to set the record straight. Now they'll go back to the other order, the regular order.
The state of Oregon, 54 votes.
Madam Secretary, the state of Oregon that made the United States of America from sea to shining sea passes at this time.
The state of Pennsylvania, 202 votes.
Madam Secretary, the great state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, where America declared her independence and framed our Constitution, whose working people outproduced the world. The new Pennsylvania, which is today the partnership state and whose best days are still ahead, proudly casts 23 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and proudly casts 179 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts.
Current polls have Pennsylvania leaning Democratic, but both Republican and Democratic professional politicians say it's one of those states that could go either way in November.
Puerto Rico, 57 votes.
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Puerto Rico passes.
Puerto Rico passes.
Her surprise is because Puerto Rico, while it has delegates to the convention, has no electoral vote.
28 votes.
Generally can be expected to just stand up and announce its vote.
Madam Chairperson, I am mayor of America's best city, Providence, a city that is benefiting from the Dukakis miracle, the home of our Chairman of Foreign Relations in the Senate, Claiborne Pell, our next United States Senator, Richard Leach, and Bruce Sumlin. Our state passes.
Okay, Rhode Island passes. South Carolina, 53 votes.
Madam Secretary, South Carolinians are very proud of their educational system, their parks that extend from the Blue Ridge Mountains to the Atlantic Ocean, and for the highway system, which has 5 interstate systems included. We're also very proud of a teenage mother, frail and frightened, who said to a newborn baby, "I give you life because I have hope and aspirations. I am brave, and I believe in this land of the free. We can make all mankind understand that the Almighty created us all in His image. And if we are to live together as brothers and sisters, we must respect the aspirations and the humanism of each individual." Jesse Jackson is the greatest American today, and I'm proud to call these figures. For the Reverend Jesse Jackson, the conscience of this nation, 31 votes. For the governor of Massachusetts, Dukakis, 22 votes.
South Carolina, of course, the home state, the birthplace of Jesse Jackson.
South Carolina has cast 31 votes for Jesse Jackson and 22 votes for Michael Dukakis.
South Dakota, 20 votes.
Madam Secretary, the great state of South Dakota, the 1989 Centennial State, home to Mount Rushmore and the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota, proudly casts 1 vote for the Reverend Jesse Jackson and 19 votes for the next President of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
South Dakota, one of those states where farmers are having so much difficulty, and partly for that reason, a state the Democrats believe they can take in November.
The state of Tennessee, 84 votes.
Madam Secretary, Tennessee passes.
The state of Tennessee passes. Texas, 211 votes.
Madam Secretary, the great Lone Star State of Texas, the crown jewel of Super Tuesday, the home of Ann Richards, Jim Wright, and Lloyd Benson, the home of 16 million hard-working Texans and 1 tourist from Kennebunkport, Maine, at this time passes in deference to a sister state.
Passing at this time. Utah, 28 votes.
Madam Secretary, the state of Utah is proud to cast 3 votes for Reverend Jesse Jackson and 25 votes for the governor of Massachusetts, our next president, Michael Dukakis.
Utah has cast 3 votes for Jackson and 25.
Strong Republican state, and the GOP would say no way the Democrats can carry it.
20 votes.
Madam Secretary, the beautiful Green Mountain state of Vermont voted once in its history for a Democrat in 1964, and we're going to do it again. The state of Vermont passed 9 votes proudly for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, 1 vote for Gary Hart, and 9 votes for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis.
Vermont has cast 9 for Jackson, 1 for Hart, 9 for Dukakis.
The state of Virginia, 86 votes.
Madam Secretary, the Commonwealth of Virginia, the place where America began,
cast its votes for the next President of the United States as follows.
Madam Secretary, the Commonwealth of Virginia cast 42 votes for Michael Dukakis, 42 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 2 votes not voted.
Virginia has cast 42.
And the nomination process rolls on live and direct from the Convention Hall in Atlanta. The plan afoot to have California be the state that puts Michael Dukakis over the top. And once that happens, then to have Dukakis nominated by acclamation.
Madam Secretary, the great state of Washington, which celebrates its centennial in 1989, and whose union labor built the planes that flew you to Atlanta, cast 27 votes for Jesse Jackson and 50 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Washington has cast 27 for Jackson and 50 for Dukakis.
One of the few Western states the Democrats think they could definitely take. Washington State, that is.
Madam Chairman, West Virginia, almost heaven, West Virginia, passes.
West Virginia passes at this time. Wisconsin, 91.
Madam Secretary, America's Dairyland, with its deeply rooted progressive spirit, expresses our pride and gratitude to Senator Bill Proxmire for his 30 years.
The Dukakis family watching from their hotel suite here in Atlanta as the vote rolls on. Mr. and Mrs. Dukakis with their children, John, age 29, Andrea, age 22, Kara, age 19.
Madam Secretary.
Michael Dukakis with open shirt collar and his arm around his wife.
Granting women the right to vote.
The Dukakis is watching as the vote total rolls through Wyoming.
Majestic mountains and hospitable hearts, and the lowest corporate and personal income taxes in the country, proudly cast its votes as follows. 4 votes for a great American, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and 14 votes for the next President of the United States and a great American, Michael Dukakis.
Wyoming has cast 4 votes for Jesse Jackson.
Katie Dukakis still recovering from the recent surgery that she underwent for 2 herniated discs in her neck. As it nears the time when Dukakis will be going over the top, Samoa now voting.
Remind my fellow delegates here tonight that the United States is not made up of just the states and District of Columbia. It includes the territory of American Samoa, Guam, and Virgin Islands, and a Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and Northern Mariana. Now, from the most beautiful paradise of America in the South Pacific, where Polynesia began in the South Pacific ended, we cast all our votes for the governor of Massachusetts, our good friend Michael Dukakis.
American Samoa has cast 6 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Democrats abroad, 9 votes.
The Dukakis family with their friends in the hotel suite. We mentioned earlier that the Reverend Jesse Jackson sent word that he would not be coming to the hall tonight, that he thought the focus ought to be on the delegates and the vote and the party presidential nominee.
Its territories and the Commonwealth. Citizens who fight to advance our country's economic interests around the world proudly cast 1/2 vote for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, 8 1/4 votes for the next leader of the free world and the next president of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Madam Secretary, the Democrats abroad have cast 1/2 vote for Jesse Jackson and 8 1/4 votes for Michael Dukakis.
Guam, 4 votes.
Madam Secretary, the next Commonwealth within the American political family extends its gratitude to this convention for the acknowledgement of the petition and memorial of the people of Guam for political self-determination I have sent to the chair. The document is now an official and historic part of this great democratic convention. Guam casts its total 4 votes to Governor Michael Dukakis.
Guam has cast 4 votes for Michael Dukakis.
The Virgin Islands, 5.
Madam Secretary, I am Marilyn Stapleton, State Chair of the American Paradise, the United States Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, the only home of the first Black Democratic Governor of the United States Virgin Islands.
All right.
We proudly cast our 5 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Part of the system, the delicate and intricate system of American checks and balances at work here at the Democratic National Convention in the nomination of a president, and it's nearing the point where California will be able to put Michael Dukakis over the top.
The state of Arkansas, 48 votes.
Madam Chairman, Winston Bryant, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Arkansas, known as the land of opportunity, a state on the move with a bright future, has 1 abstention, cast 11 votes for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, cast 31 votes for the next president of the United States, Governor Michael Dukakis.
So that was Arkansas on the second time around. Arkansas, then California, and California's votes will put Governor Dukakis over the top. This has been the plan, and then Willie Brown of California is expected to come on and move to have the nomination be by acclamation.
The state of California with 363 votes.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, indeed.
Madam Secretary, to announce our vote, the Golden State of California proudly introduces our outstanding Lieutenant Governor and next United States Senator from the state of California, Leo McCarthy.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
The state of California, the land of heart and hope, on November 8th, will deliver the winning margin, and tonight is proud to announce the votes recorded for 2 Americans it considers very unique and special. Tonight, for Jesse Jackson, 122 votes.
With Governor Dukakis, his mother,
Dukakis,
and his wife.
The nominating margin, 235 votes.
Michael Dukakis is the official nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States. And the governor breaking out into that big smile you saw in his hotel suite with his wife under his arm and his mother over his shoulder. You leaving now? And a toast. Governor Dukakis' mother Euterpe Dukakis is 84 years old. And when we go back to that picture away from the hall in a moment, you see how broad her smile is, and why not? Governor Dukakis' mother came to the United States from Greece at the age of 9. Went on to earn her bachelor's degree from Bates College. Well, the Dukakis supporters have waited a long time for this moment. This is their night. Let's go down to the floor. Bill Plant in the California delegation. Bill?
Well, Dan, although there is absolutely no evidence recorded anywhere that putting a candidate over the top won a single vote in that state, it's obvious that this was very important to California and the people who engineered this. California, after all, is the home of Ronald Reagan. They are anxious to give Democrats a boost, and it was Willie Brown, the Speaker of the State Assembly, who engineered this. He was a co-chairman of Jesse Jackson's campaign. He, as you have noted, Dan, is about to introduce a resolution to make the nomination by acclamation. He and Leo McCarthy, who is running for the Senate and who was anxious for his moment in the limelight, combined to give California the opportunity, in a deal with the other states, to be the one to put him over the top. Now, California should be able to turn out a substantial number of new voters, blacks and Hispanics. That is the target. They take issue with the notion that they are a solidly Republican state. So it will be a very important battleground in the campaign this fall. The Dukakis campaign feels that it is one of the states that it must win, and with some reason. The big states, California, the biggest of all of them, are key to putting together a winning combination of electoral votes. Right now, though, they are very pleased with what they've just accomplished. Dan?
Bill, we want to talk about it as time goes along. There's been so much talk about the Republicans putting Governor Duke Majan of California on the ticket, but of course if they did that, that might very well make Lieutenant Governor McCarthy, the Democrat who handled this announcement of the vote tonight, in charge of redistricting in California, and so it gets, as many things in politics does, it gets very complicated. Well, as you can see from the convention hall in Atlanta, Georgia, the Dukakis celebration erupts, and in their hotel suite nearby, the candidate and his wife and the candidate's mother, along with family and friends, celebrate. At this moment, in the American tradition that is a nominating convention, a tribe of hostile Comanches could ride through here and nobody would notice. Down there amongst the celebration, Bob Schieffer in the Massachusetts delegation, where tonight's hometown boy made good. Bob?
Well, Dan, you know what the story is here. This is a hometown boy makes good, and this is the center of all the attention right now of everybody here just having a real big time. What does it mean? Are you happy to have a guy from your home state?
He'll make a great president.
All right, well, that's about it, Dan, and I think if it asked every one of these people here, that's exactly the line you'd get.
Bob, I know you agree. One of the things television does best is take you there. So for just a moment, let's soak up this scene in these few seconds. And let's just transport our viewers here to Convention Hall. And we'll be back with more from Dukakis and Atlanta after these messages.
This portion of CBS News coverage of the Democratic National Convention is sponsored by General Motors, the mark of excellence.
At General Motors, a new partnership is taking shape.
Hey, how'd it go on the new job, son? Not bad. Yeah, we're learning a lot about computers and stuff. You know, they asked me to a meeting today. They asked the union? Yeah. It's a meeting on how we can improve quality. And, well, they want to know what I thought.
It's not like it was when I was on the line.
You know, I had a pretty good idea.
At GM, the partnership is working. The vision is paying off.
You can see the dream of success in the eyes of people all across America. At Citicorp, we understand the dream. That's why, as Citicorp and Citibank, we've become America's largest financial services organization, already helping 1 in every 5 American families, with more home mortgages, more student loans, more MasterCard and Visa cards than any other company. We'd like you to get to know us better. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
For Post-Natural Bran Flakes, Steve Allen on getting the best out of life.
My best always comes out with a little humor, and sometimes with a sliced banana.
Reach for the best tasting high fiber Bran Flake. Post Bran Flakes at their best.
A simple idea from a company called TRW lets the person who will use a computer system help design it. First, TRW engineers make a rough prototype. Then the user tries it, changes it until it reflects his needs.
Okay, that's it. We've got it.
This satisfies the most crucial element in any system, the human one.
Perfect.
Tomorrow is taking shape at a company called TRW.
Now for indigestion, gas. Introducing new Extra Strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new Extra Strength Malox Plus.
This is CBS.
Burger King salutes all you summertime heroes.
I got it!
Now for a limited time, just for you, the Burger King Summertime Heroes. All white meat chicken or 2 juicy flame broil burgers.
I got it!
Each topped with a grand slam of lettuce, cheese, tomato, and mayo on a big long sesame bun.
I got it!
Come on, all you summertime heroes, go out there.
I got it!
Right to Burger King for our new chicken and burger Summertime Heroes.
Told you I got it.
We do it like you do it at Burger King.
Pulse 13 News Break, sponsored by Publix.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Smith. Hillsborough County firefighters claim proposed staffing cuts will hamper their ability to do their job. We'll take you along on a unit tonight. Now this.
If you're looking for a real deli with great food and great platters for any kind of party, you're looking in the right place.
Some people are being creative in not watching the Democratic National Convention. That story and more tonight on Nightbeat.
CBS News coverage of Campaign 88 continues. Tonight, from Atlanta, Georgia, the 3rd session of the Democratic National Convention. From CBS News Convention headquarters inside the Omni Arena, here again is Dan Rather.
Party time in Atlanta for the Democrats. You know, Calvin Coolidge said about the presidency, like the glory of a morning sunrise, it can only be experienced. It cannot be told. That might apply to conventions as well. They may seem crazy to people unfamiliar with the American experience and the American way, but this is the way we do it. This is part of the dance of democracy. Diane Sawyer is at the podium with information on how Jesse Jackson has been handling all this and what the reaction has been to it. Diane?
That's right, Dan. I just talked to Speaker Willie Brown, who, of course, is going to go up and make this a nomination by acclamation shortly. He told me he had just phoned the Reverend Jackson. I said, what did the Reverend Jackson say to you? He said he told me that the nominating process is now officially shifted, that this convention is officially shifted to Michael Dukakis. He wants it to be that way. And his parting words were, go out there and get us a president. One other thing, Dan, sometimes a vignette sums everything up. The Speaker Brown, was the object of a practical joke just a few minutes ago. An entire delegation of senior Jackson aides came up to him, senior officials, and with stricken looks on their faces, they said, "We've got problems out there. The Jackson delegates are going to walk out." When Speaker Brown's mouth dropped open, they broke into raucous laughter. That could not have happened 2 days ago. Dan?
Thanks, Diane. What's happening here? The Democrats celebrate the Duke. Michael Dukakis will be their nominee. And as they celebrate, Willie Brown, the Speaker of the California House, prepares to make it unanimous. They'll let them celebrate on the floor for a while, though, and why not? A lot of these people have worked very, very hard to make this happen. Leslie Stahl is in the New York delegation area with a man whose thoughts may be about what might have been. Leslie?
Dan, I'm here, as you say, with one of the giants of the Democratic Party, Mario Cuomo. Governor Cuomo, this is your first night here on the floor. I understand you met with both Jackson and Dukakis today. Are you on board? Are you going to campaign for this ticket? Did they ask you to?
Oh, yeah. I've spoken to Mike Dukakis a couple of times, and I've told him I'm eager to do whatever he wants me to do. Go out for coffee, sandwiches, campaign in California, Michigan, and Ohio, which they've asked me to do. I do have some duties as governor of the state of New York, but we'll work 7 days a week for this ticket.
Governor, there's been a lot of focus here on ridiculing George Bush. Do you think that's a good tactic, or do you think it might backfire?
No, I think they've had some fun the last couple of days criticizing George Bush. I don't think that's the way to win. You know, it's natural in a campaign. But I think what you'll see tomorrow in Mike Dukakis' speech is a good, constructive, affirmative, progressive program. That's the way you win, is by being affirmative and constructive, and that's what we're going to be.
I have one fast last question. Tell us the truth. Are you eating your heart out?
No, not at all. I think Mike Dukakis and Lloyd Bentsen are an excellent ticket. If I'm serious about all the things I say about wanting to help people in my state, that's what I should want, and that's what I do want.
Thank you very much, Governor Cuomo. Dan?
Leslie, let the record show Governor Cuomo said all the way through that he did not want the nomination to be president this year. He reminds us of that, and he's got a point. Now, what's happening at the moment in and around the podium, the arrangements are being made to make this nomination of Michael Dukakis unanimous with the plan that was put afoot and then affected tonight. California was the state that put Michael Dukakis over the top. California passed on the first turn around the roll call, and then they did the arithmetic so they could make California the state that actually did it for Michael Dukakis. Right now, the roll call resumes for those states that passed. And while that's going on, we're going to talk to one of the children in the Dukakis family, an adult now, John, age 29, is with us. John, thank you.
It's been 17 long months, and we are just so excited and thrilled today. It's been a great day, and we're celebrating and congratulating ourselves and looking forward to the other part of the marathon, which really is the sprint.
John, you read, you listen, you watch television. Is there any one thing that sticks in your mind that the American public doesn't know about your father, perhaps hasn't gotten through, that you think is really important that they understand and know about him?
Well, I think our job in the course of this campaign is to let people know that even though he doesn't pound tables and he doesn't cry on cue, this is a person who cares very deeply about this country and uses that feeling to move things in different ways. He has made a real difference in the lives of real people, and as a president, he's going to do exactly that. And we want to give him that opportunity and run a very strong and vigorous campaign in order to make people understand what the stakes are in this campaign.
John, when I asked your father not too long ago what he did for fun, he wanted to be asked the question, said he did, and then he said, well, you know, I work and I take walks. Give me some example. What's the last film he saw?
Well, not surprisingly, it was Moonstruck, which we took him to not too long ago so he could see his cousin give the best performance ever. And that was a great deal of fun. He sees movies. He takes a lot of pleasure in some of the simple things in life, the kinds of things that people who work for a living every day enjoy. And yes, cutting the grass is something that he enjoys, and believe me, I'm glad that he is resuming that after my doing it for many years.
And when he's able, I can bet I remember those. We all do those days when we had to cut the grass.
Sure.
The last book he read for pleasure, you have any idea what it might have been?
No, but the days of reading Swedish land use planning are past. He's read a little bit of political history and has a VCR and has watched a little bit of history there as well.
Now, What part do you plan to take in this campaign? Has your father talked to you about what he wants the family to do? He's been a man who in the past has kept the family in the background a great deal.
Well, we didn't try to be in the background. My wife and I ran the Southern campaign for 10 months, running it right out of here in Atlanta. We plan to be very involved in the South again, but we also plan to spend a little bit of time in the state of California, which had a great honor tonight in putting us over the edge. We're going to hope to be campaigning all over this country and running the kind of 50-state campaign that's necessary in 1988 to put a Democrat back in the White House. So our family, you're going to see all of us. My 84-year-old grandmother, who is the embodiment of the American dream, my grandfather, my mother, all of my sisters, everybody named Dukakis, everybody who knows a Dukakis is going to be out there telling people how important this election is.
John Dukakis, thank you very much. Give our best to your father and mother.
I sure will. Thank you.
And our CBS News coverage of the Democratic Convention 1988 continues after these messages.
Today, General Motors is building the first completely new full-size pickup in this decade. Robot fixtures using laser eyes allow precise fitting of the parts to the body shell. Unique manufacturing methods allow functional assembly tolerances to be held to plus or minus half a millimeter, virtually a hair's breadth. Just one of the reasons we believe it is quite simply the best-built truck in the world. At GM, the vision is paying off.
Many financial opportunities offer protection, yet one stands out because it also offers potential for growth. The Travelers Universal Life insurance protection and tax-deferred growth opportunity. So you'll have a special kind of nest egg to secure the financial future of your family or business. Get the Travelers Universal Life and watch your opportunities grow. The Travelers, you're better off under the umbrella.
They say men get better with age, and women just age. Oh, really?
Oil of Olay.
Men get character lines, women get wrinkles. Oh, really?
Created to penetrate quickly, lessen the look of lines.
Only men get sexier. Oh, really?
Created to fight dryness, silken, like your skin's youthful fluid.
I don't intend to grow old gracefully.
Oil of Olay.
I'm fighting it every step of the way. Really.
Okay, let's get moving. First, we'll need work from every department. Who's set up for that?
Our computers are tied in.
Mike, how long for graphics?
3 days max. Our computer can do it in a day.
It's yours. Joni, typesetting and printing?
About a week on overtime.
Now, hold on now. Who published this?
We did, on the computer.
Well, do it again. Last, we need presentation overheads. Any ideas?
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow on CBS This Morning, Oscar winner Olympia Dukakis.
And Andy Rooney's view of the delegates on CBS This Morning.
These are about 4 of the calmest people in a flood I've ever seen. The Albany movement is no exception. There's a debate in the United States. Mexico is digging out and fighting back. Red Square in the heart of Moscow.
Dan Rather. He's been there. He'll be there.
This is CBS.
They're here with a whole new act. The Grapevine Tour, only at Hardee's. Buy any 2 Rise and Shine biscuits or any dessert and collect an all-new California Raisin figurine for just 99 cents. A new rocker or roller each week. Collect all 6 only at Hardee's, because we're out to win you over.
Pulse 13 News Break, sponsored by Cash and Carry.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Smith. A debate in Pinellas Park this evening over whether to allow a home for single mothers to be built in that community. More after this. Kelly Craig reports from Atlanta on the nomination of Michael Dukakis for the Democrats. Join us for Night Beat right after the convention.
CBS News coverage of Campaign 88 continues. From CBS News Convention Headquarters in Atlanta's Omni Arena, here again is Dan Rather.
With Eric Sevareid and Walter Cronkite. And what's happening here in the hall, Michael Dukakis has been nominated by the Democratic Party as its presidential nominee for 1988. There's just a little mop-up work on the vote as those states that passed are being put into the book. Let's go down to the podium, pick that up, and then what will follow that is Willie Brown, the Speaker of the California Legislature, will move that the nomination be by acclamation. These are just the last cleanup votes from the roll call from states that passed so that California could be placed in position to be the state, as indeed it turned out to be, that put Michael Dukakis over the top.
Okay.
Governor Mike Dukakis, 65.
Right.
And if you would let Les Aspin in the hall, we would count him for Mike Dukakis.
Now, Les Aspin, the congressman who is a delegate, along with a lot of other people, couldn't get in the hall. Locked out for security reasons and because the hall is so small, not much room in the hall for a night such as this. Now, when they finish this cleanup work with the last remaining votes, Jesse Jackson's National Campaign Chairman, Willie Brown, age 54 and Speaker of the California Assembly,
for a very important motion,
will make the motion. This is Jim Wright, the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Washington.
Chairman of the National Campaign for Jesse Jackson, Speaker of the California State Assembly, the Honorable Willie Brown.
Willie Brown is the longest-running speaker in state history of California. He broke Jesse Unruh's 7-year record in March, the late Jesse Unruh. He's been facing some local political trouble of his own, Willie Brown has, from the so-called Gang of 5 California legislators challenging his position as Speaker.
Mr. Chairman, and my fellow Democrats, I just took a telephone call from that young man who stirred the hearts and souls of this convention last night when he recounted his journey of producing new people to the rolls, re-energizing the Democratic Party in pursuit of the nomination. In the spirit of the Jackson campaign, in the spirit of how Jesse Jackson has conducted himself so nobly and so appropriate, and in the interests of unity and in pursuit of the common goals of the Democratic Party, at his request, I am instructed to move to suspend the rules, to nominate by acclamation on behalf of that man who's gotten more votes than any other runner-up ever in the history of this party, 1,218, to nominate by acclamation the governor of the great state of Massachusetts, the Honorable Michael Dukakis, for the President of these United States.
Well, the dictionary defines acclamation as an overwhelming affirmative vote by shouting or applause rather than by ballot. And the Democratic Convention has just done it.
Do I hear a second? Question is on the motion to suspend the rules and nominate Governor Michael Dukakis by acclamation for the office of President of the United States. All who are in favor will say aye. Any opposed will say no. Oh, so obviously, 2/3 having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to, the rules are suspended, and Governor Michael Dukakis is nominated by acclamation for the office of President of the United States.
Well, the convention is the voice, the bone, and the sinews of a political party, and sometimes it even nominates an Abraham Lincoln. Fletcher Knievel wrote that. This time, it's nominated Michael Dukakis. Leslie Stahl is on the floor with Olympia Dukakis, Michael Dukakis' cousin and the Oscar Award-winning actress. Leslie?
Dan, I'm standing with Olympia Dukakis, who is in tears.
Well,
I said I'm standing with Olympia Dukakis, and you're in tears.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am in tears. I'm quite overwhelmed.
You know, you grew up with Michael Dukakis. You were children together. Could you ever have guessed?
No.
What was he like when you were kids playing around in the streets of Brookline?
He was my cousin. I mean, we shared holidays together. He and my other cousins, who are all boys, would go out and play football and ignore me. And now I'm the only one of our family here to witness this tonight. It's incredible. I'm so privileged.
What's it like down on the floor for you?
It's very emotional and very emotional.
Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations to all of us.
Dan?
Leslie Stahl with a very proud cousin. Jesse Jackson last night talking about the immigrant background to the Dukakis family. Tremendous story. Family, father and mother moved here at early ages from Greece. His father went on to put himself through medical school, and Jesse Jackson said, or at least words to the effect, it doesn't matter what ships we came over on, we're all in the same boat now. Happy to say in this anchor booth boat with me is old friend Eric Severide. Eric, we've talked a lot about conventions past. Let's talk about the campaign and the future and what happens. Okay, they're going to have this ticket, but what happens to it?
You know, for a moment while the young Dukakis was talking with you from his father's suite, I got the feeling the country's being asked to choose between families. We had the young Kennedy introducing Senator Kennedy, and this extraordinary assemblage of the Jackson family. They all look like beauty queens and fullbacks. You know, Alice Longworth once said to me that the Kennedys were the greatest political family since the Bonapartes. And now I wonder if they're going to have some competition with the Dukakises and this extraordinary Jackson assemblage is changing the face of politics. So now they've got to the point they've chosen the administrator over the evangelist and the soft-spoken man over the flamboyant man, cautious man, over the man who's sometimes rather reckless, the Reverend Jackson. You could almost say it's been a choice between two cultures here, the white against the black. Unfortunately, both very American, but still, unfortunately, very different. I think as far as the campaign goes, obviously it's going to be a troika. It's going to be Dukakis, Jackson, and Benson, the three running against three Republicans, Bush, whoever he picks for vice president, and President Reagan. The press is going to have 6 people they're going to have to keep track of. There are a lot of difficulties in this, and there'll be in this Democratic campaign. Mr. Jackson can be a loose cannon on the deck when he is so minded, and he's going to be pulled and hauled, I would think. He apparently has made the choice that he's going to be a political leader, not just a civil rights leader, but the real passionate civil rights people will be pulling him on one side, and the more cautious, pragmatic political people like friends like Bert Lance and others will be pulling him on the other. And he's got to decide as he goes along. But he has become here a kind of he's acquired a new status. He's almost like Hubert Humphrey was, a sort of the conscience of the country. The two need each other, the Jackson and Dukakis. At the moment, really the country knows Jackson better than it knows the nominee. But that's going to change. There's something in physics called the Heisenberg principle, that is, a phenomenon observed alters in relation to other phenomena. And so as the cameras and the reporters' pencils fashion on Dukakis, he's going to do more than swell. He will probably grow.
Well, a few seconds left, Eric, but it occurs that Jesse Jackson has handled himself since his great moment last night and tonight when his name was placed in nomination, he has done what he said he would do. It's been a classy performance today, helping turn the spotlight on to Michael Dukakis.
That's where it's supposed to be, and now we'll see how Mr. Jackson can restrain himself.
Eric, good to have you with us. See you again tomorrow night. And our CBS News coverage of the nomination of Michael Dukakis for President of the United States will continue with the conversation with Walter Cronkite in a moment.
This portion of CBS News coverage of the Democratic National Convention is sponsored by The Travelers, one of America's most experienced financial experts. You're better off under the umbrella.
Behind every winner, there's a winner. Someone who helped make that victory possible. The Travelers wants you to win. So we back you with independent agents and brokers whose experience and professionalism can help you reach your financial goals. Coach and athlete, your Travelers agent and you. Behind every winner, there's a winner. The Travelers. You're better off under the umbrella. We raced 1,900 miles across Australia, powered only by the sun. GM beat Ford and 22 other entries. The GM Sun Racer. Solar panels by GM's Hughes Aircraft subsidiary. Drive motor from the GM Research Labs. MagnaQuench magnets from Delco Remy. Suspension designed by GM's engineering staffs. A triumph of GM teamwork and technology. The vision is paying off.
I just proposed additional IBM PS2s.
Oh, really?
You want to know why?
Do I want to know why?
Hey, go on, ask me why.
Why?
Compatibility.
I love compatibility.
PS2s can run the programs we run on these old PCs, which means we can keep using the software we've already got. Are you following all
I'm
that?
hanging on every word.
Not to mention the PS2's increased speed and superior graphics.
Not to mention advanced OS2 capabilities.
Were you listening outside the door? Was he listening outside the door?
Something unexpected will tear Peggy Moore away from her gardening. Pain. Her body's not as limber as it used to be, and even a simple move can slow her down. That's why her next move is to Metaprin. Metaprin has the same medicine as Motrin, and nothing's proven faster for relief of back pain or any kind of pain. It's also gentler to your stomach than aspirin. Metaprin works fast when you haven't got time for the pain.
And back at the convention hall in Atlanta, Dan Rather with CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite. Walter, good to have you with us again. And all this talk about unity and harmony, they're all singing off the same page now. Can it last through November?
Well, boy, the euphoria count certainly pegged tonight at the top, hadn't it? It doesn't show the full numbers of what they've got out here in euphoria. And this party tonight in Atlanta, at any rate, certainly, I think, thinks it's on a winning track. It's never had this kind of a feeling almost in the memory of most of these delegates out here. And it, I think, has a chance of keeping on that track pretty well. The performance of Jesse Jackson here has been really extraordinary, I think. I think this party has a great deal to thank that man for what appears here tonight. There's a question in everybody's mind because he is a fiery individual. He's a man of great personal feeling of an ego and independence. He gets out on the campaign trail, and there's that possibility they feel that maybe if he's pushed off the front pages in the campaign, he'll do something atrocious to get himself back on the front pages. I don't think that's the Jackson we have been seeing here at this convention.
Oh, definitely not. And Walter, as he goes along, will Jackson prove to be a plus or a minus or a wash for the campaign in straight, candid street language?
I think it might very well be that he's in the area of a wash or plus. there's going to be a minus factor. There's no doubt about it. There's still, unfortunately, a residual racism in this country, perhaps among some of the older people who haven't really come alive in what's happened since the civil rights. And among those, there may be a resentment about a black taking such a prominent role in presidential politics. But on the other hand, he's proved his ability at this registration drive business. He's proved his ability to get out among people who have not been activists in politics and even voters before, with the support of a national campaign behind him and the money and all of that and the support that means. He can do a much bigger job than he's ever been able to do before. That could be a turning point for the Democrats, putting them back into a majority position in presidential politics, picking up what they've been doing locally and have not been able to do on a national basis. The problem probably is now a kind of a charisma factor with the leader of the party, Governor Dukakis. And we'll see him in action tomorrow night here as he makes his acceptance speech. This is his big moment, obviously, tomorrow night. He's got such a tough act to follow. There have been some pretty powerful speeches out there on that platform here, and of course being topped by Jackson. Can he come anywhere near matching that, or will there be a kind of a letdown? It's not his style to be flamboyant, and he doesn't want to be flamboyant. It's just the other thing. It's the hard, tough manager speaking to you. But is that going to grab them out there? It may not matter in the total run toward November, but it'll be a perception kind of a problem right at the moment.
Walter, I wanted you to do me the favor and the honor of just looking out on this hall now as this convention night comes to a close as they sing America the Beautiful.
At the relief.
Land, and it takes us, it's supposed to take 40 minutes, but it takes an hour and a half sometimes to get here.
So travel's tough?
Yes.
Worst part?
The worst part.
From 6 o'clock to the closing gavel, Florida's delegations stay packed in, if not seated, here in the Omni, a closet of a convention hall. But after tonight, each delegate will have a memory that lasts longer than any of their days this week.
We're going to pick the next leader of the country. Our peers pick us to come here to represent them, and that's what we do.
If there's been a common complaint from the members of the Florida delegation, it's not been about the length of their day, but about the size of this arena. The Omni is so small for a convention of this size, and the convention floor out there is so crowded that the members of the delegation feel trapped in their chairs for hours. But that aside, Bill, these members certainly seem in pretty good spirits, and well, they should be. There are nominees in place, and the party seems relatively unified. They seem to have everything they want.
It is unified, and this hall was selected for several reasons. One, because it looks so good on television, and it makes the party look good. Now, tonight, Jesse Jackson did receive his presidential nomination. At least his name was put up for nomination, and we want to show you that moment at this convention.
And I am inordinately proud and uniquely privileged to offer in nomination for the office of President of the United States, Jesse Louis Jackson.
Jesse Jackson received about 1/3 of the votes tonight, but he's now playing a major role in the Democratic Party. You know, the Democratic Party does not really sing in harmony. But tonight, it is more unified than it has been in recent years. And now it's going to focus on its main job, and that is defeating George Bush in November. So that's the action tonight. Of course, tomorrow night, Michael Dukakis will be here to give his acceptance speech. We'll have live reports at noon, 6, and 11.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. Of course, not all of the Bay Area's Democrats are in Atlanta tonight. This evening, Palm Harbor Democratic official Joe Roble held a convention-watching gathering for family and friends. Even in this small group, observers were not united over the Dukakis nomination.
All right. He brought a real sense of dedication to making government work for people in the state of Massachusetts.
I'm extremely disappointed that Dukakis was the Democratic nominee. I would have supported a gentleman like John Glenn or another conservative Democrat whose views are well known.
Just another example of democracy in progress. Still ahead on the News Watch, David Grant tells us whether we'll need to batten down our hatches tomorrow. If your house catches fire in Hillsborough County, will firemen arrive in time? We'll look at proposed cuts that may affect the answer. And in Jacksonville, reaction to a tough sentence handed down in an historic drug case.
This has been CBS News' continuing coverage of Campaign 88. Tonight, the third session of the Democratic National Convention.
This is CBS.
The roll has been called, the votes are in, and the political prize awarded. And a shelter for single mothers. Does Pinellas Park want it?
Heavy rain hits the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys.
The Pirates tonight chop another half game off the Mets lead.
And these people are lining up to pay to watch almost anything but the Democrats in action. Pulse 13's Night Beat is next.
I'm not one to go after the inexpensive things in life, but this fast 99-cent breakfast sandwich from Burger King is a real bargain. Fresh eggs, bacon, ham, or sausage, cheese on a hearty bagel, or a flaky croissant. That's French. The 99-cent breakfast at Burger King, just like I do it. If I did such things.
We do it like you do it when we do it like we do it at Burger King.
Stories have been told here for centuries about visits by creatures from another world. Creatures so powerful and deadly they're feared by everything in their domain. Yet they can befriend a human being. Hear these stories for the first time, and if you don't believe such creatures exist, see them for yourself at the new Legend of Shamu, only at SeaWorld. You can't get any closer.
Starting now. Through this weekend, get new really big rebates from the Toyota factory distributor. $1,000 back on all these Camrys. $1,000 back on Camry only through this weekend during Toyota's really big sales event. Get really big deals on new cars, trucks, and vans. Plus $500 rebates on Toyota's lowest priced trucks. $500 cash never offered before. But hurry. You only have through this weekend to get this $1,000 rebate at Toyota dealers.
WTBT, Tampa, St. Petersburg. This is Pulse 13 Night Beat, Tampa Bay's most watched nighttime newscast. With Hugh Smith, Kelly Craig, Roy Leap, and Andy Hardy with sports.
235 votes.
Cheers, chants, and applause as Michael Dukakis tonight is nominated as President of the United States on the Democratic Party's ticket. Good evening, I'm Hugh Smith. Kelly Craig is in Atlanta watching history happen.
Oh, so obviously, 2/3 having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to, the rules are suspended, and Governor Michael Dukakis is nominated by acclamation for the office of President of the United States.
The initial final vote by the delegates, 2,248 to 1,044, and earlier in the evening, both Dukakis and Jesse Jackson had their names placed in nomination. Jackson stayed away from the convention center to give Dukakis center stage, and in a statement, Jackson urged the delegates to make the nomination of Dukakis unanimous once the votes were tallied, which they were. Now, Pulse 13's Kelly Craig has been in Atlanta all week following all the excitement and politicking there. She joins us now with an update from the convention activities. Kelly?
Hugh, this is one of the most exciting nights of the convention, the roll call. And while many Florida delegates are first-time conventioneers, the woman calling the shots is a seasoned pro, and she's from Florida. Pulse 13's Kerry Sanders reports.
Thank you, Kelly. Dorothy Bush from Naples has seen the Democratic Convention from one of the best seats in the House for more than 40 years. From up there on the podium as the secretary of the Democratic Party.
Arizona, 43 votes. Arizona, the home of the Grand Canyon, the ideal site for the superconducting super collider, and
Dorothy Bush has heard them all, the strange claims to fame, like Massachusetts, one time claiming to be the state that is the hub of the universe. Tonight, our tradition, boosters were again trying to promote their states.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Your home state, the great state of Florida, and the state of choice for 1,000 new residents each day. The state which represents the future and the best of America.
As important as the alphabetical state roll call is, you would think it's all pretty much cut and dry. Not always so. Today, Dorothy remembered Miami, 1972.
That year, they decided, well, let's don't just make Alabama first. We'll put every state's name in the hat and draw them out and see what to make the roll call.
It was a bad experiment?
Well, it was really pretty confusing. California came first, and I believe South Carolina was second, and right on down. It was just all jumbled up from the beginning to the end.
Dorothy Bush is obviously enjoying her job, and despite her age, 71 years old, she has no plans to retire. Kelly?
Dorothy says she does things the old-fashioned way by voice vote rather than by computer because she says she doesn't want to tinker with tradition, and who can blame her? Hugh?
Thank you, Kelly. We'll be hearing from you again tomorrow. A proposal to build a low-income housing project for single mothers in Pinellas Park once again faced heated debate this evening. For 3 months now, developers have been fighting angry homeowners and a city council that says the project does not meet zoning requirements. Well, as Nightbeat's Greg Stoddard tells us, in the end, the neighborhood won out.
Okay, we're ready.
For Lucille Evers, it has been a daily financial struggle as a single parent supporting 3 kids and living with her mother. She welcomes more affordable housing and says the critics are unfair.
I feel like that they should give a single parent a chance in a neighborhood to see how they're going to benefit the neighborhood before they pass judgment on a person.
Proceed in opposition.
At an overflow public hearing that spilled into the hallway, Pinellas Park homeowners were up in arms, claiming the proposed Pinellas Village for 95 single mothers will produce crime, increase traffic, and lower property values.
This developer has no consideration for the people that live around this project. He has no consideration for the people he wants to put into this project, and he has no consideration for the rules and codes of Pinellas Park.
All of this upsetting to Dick Feinberg, the backbone of this project.
I can't handle their prejudice. That's, I can't. That's not something I can address.
By a tight 3-2 vote, the proposal was defeated. The developers say, however, they won't give up and plan to take legal action against the city council. In Pinellas Park, Greg Stoddard, Pulse 13, on the Night Beat.
One man is in custody now in connection with the murder of a Pasco County woman. The body of Barbara Friedman was discovered in a wooded area tonight in Land O'Lakes. A suspect, David Reuter, has been arrested. Earlier in the evening, authorities found blood and gun shell.
You're scoring big political points, and the game is well underway.
So when all those assaults were being mounted, I think it's fair to ask, where was George?
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Atlanta, Ted Koppel.
Before we get to our main topic tonight, there's been some important business still underway here at the convention in Atlanta. It just recessed. It's now some 7 minutes after midnight. It recessed about 2 or 3 minutes ago. The delegates are now wending their way home, but just about a half an hour ago, Willie Brown, the chairman of the Jesse Jackson campaign, announced to the assembled delegation here that he had spoken to the Reverend Jackson, and he had an important announcement that he wanted to make. Let's take a listen to that tape now.
To nominate by acclamation the governor of the great state of Massachusetts, the Honorable Michael Dukakis, for the President of these United States.
The question is on the motion to suspend the rules and nominate Governor Michael Dukakis by acclamation for the office of President of the United States. All who are in favor will say aye. Any opposed will say no. Oh, so obviously, 2/3 having voted in the affirmative, the motion is agreed to, the rules are suspended, and Governor Michael Dukakis is nominated by acclamation for the office of President of the United States.
And so what last little symbol even of dissension remained in this convention hall tonight was removed, as Willie Brown and Jim Wright, as you heard there, brought it to unanimity. There it is now. Michael Dukakis is the unanimous choice of the Democrats here in Atlanta. And so we move on with that as backdrop to our main topic for the night. You would think that it would be the most solemn of occasions, this business of finally nominating the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. Important, yes, but solemn, no.
Governor Shaker.
On behalf of the only state called America in the miniature, home of the national anthem, home of the national capital, home of the Chesapeake Bay, steamed crab, crab cake, site of the first Dukakis, push debate, Maryland with fried cash, 55 votes for Reverend Jesse Jackson, 59 votes for the next President of the United States, Michael Dukakis.
Alabama is on it.
Every 4 years, in fact, state delegations engaged in the business of presenting to the nation their best choice for President of the United States. Each 4 years, they compete with one another in the pure, unabashed zaniness of boosting their state's football team or vegetable produce or tourist attractions.
George Bush is a man who was born on third base and thinks that he's hit a triple.
Back the Vice President. Where was George? Where was George?
No doubt about it, the Democrats are having some fun here in Atlanta, ridiculing their rivals, and they have plenty of material to work with. At the same time, their convention offers lots of ammunition for the other side. But why wait for the Republican convention next month? America's political wits are already hunkering down to the serious business of poking fun at the Democrats. Here we go. Top 10 questions Democrats hope to have answered in Atlanta. Number 1, do we really want a president who looks like Casey Kasem?
Ooh, a lot of people are wondering what Jesse Jackson's going to say to Dukakis, huh? I don't know what the speech is, but I know his writers have been running around town trying to find rhymes for 4-letter words, so it...
And go forward.
Start with Jesse Jackson. The Republicans almost certainly will. Sure, he embraced the ticket, but the GOP may pose the question, what did Dukakis have to give away to get that support?
First of all, Jesse wanted a plane. He's also getting his own room at the White House. So when he comes in to help Dukakis make key decisions on domestic issues as well as foreign matters, he'll be there, and he wants in his room, he wants his own color TV, a robe with his initials on it, Oreo cookies and milk at night, and a pony.
Whatever he got, Jackson's on the team, and the Republicans will no doubt try to portray it as a troika ticket. Dukakis, Benson, and Jackson to give the Democrats a more left-leaning look.
Liberals like Jackson believe that anything is okay behind closed doors between 3 consenting adults.
And take the vice presidential nominee.
Those are the
Please.
things that Michael Dukakis is good for America.
Well, I want to thank you, Lloyd. I want to tell you that Kitty and I appreciate the breakfast this morning. It cost us an arm and a leg, I think 20 grand for a couple of eggs for Kitty, and I had granola.
I have a request. Can I take this jacket of mine off? Thank you.
That's another thing. Dukakis and Benson are the kind of guys who start to warm up before a crowd and take their coats off. Look in the dictionary under charisma. You won't find their pictures.
I drew Dukakis and Benson when Benson was picked as the bland leading the bland. You know, Dukakis had to look for someone who seemed even more vice presidential than Dukakis, which was a tough trick.
Living here in Hollywood, actors are forever saying to me, you love Dukakis, he's in Massachusetts, he's like Kennedy. They told me Hart was like Kennedy. They told me Gore was like Kennedy. Now Kennedy has gotten up at the convention, and so we have a right, and said Dukakis is like Kennedy. So we have a right to say, is there anybody in the Democratic Party who isn't like Jack Kennedy? And somebody should say, yes, Ted Kennedy.
An election hinges on personalities and, of course, issues. Yesterday's platform debate over a Palestinian state is just one of the issues the Republicans want to take advantage of. So what about the platform?
I think it's too small. I mean, I don't think, because last night you only get 7 or 8 people up there.
What about the economy? The Democrats have had plenty to say about that.
We cannot stand 4 more years of Reaganomics in any version, in any disguise.
The Republicans are likely to point out that inflation's down, unemployment's down, so why are the Democrats complaining anyway?
What they're trying to do indirectly is it's very subtle. They're saying that they will take care of the poor. And since many of us will be joining that group once they're in office, it's promising to know someone will care about us once we've become the poor.
Right now, pity the poor Democrats, targets of all this acid wit. But wait.
I've observed Dukakis and I've observed Bush, and I think that Bush is going to be a lot funnier if he becomes president than Dukakis. Because Bush will shoot himself in the foot, I think, once a week.
This is what's interesting to me. Somebody was saying the other day that only the Democrats could pick a candidate, could pick a ticket that couldn't beat George Bush. You know, me and you give us a couple $100 in a week and a half, we'll get some votes.
So just wait until August when it's time to make fun of the Republicans. And then comes the election. And remember, it's after you're president that the real grilling begins.
This is Sam Donaldson, ABC News, reporting from Atlanta, where Mr. President. What? Sam, I can't hear you. Would you start up the helicopter, please? I can't. No, I...
Judd Rose for Nightline in Atlanta.
Are we in New Orleans yet?
And when we come back, we'll go down to a considerably emptier convention floor, and we'll be joined by Sam Donaldson, Lynn Sherr, Jim Wooten, by Jeff Greenfield, and, of course, by Brit Hume. All of that when we come back.
ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Chrysler.
When it comes to quality, every car company believes it has the ultimate truth. Ford believes quality is job one. GM believes it has the mark of excellence. Fine. But unfortunately for GM and Ford, Chrysler has the highest customer satisfaction of any American car company for overall product quality and dealer service. The customer seems to have decided who has the ultimate truth, Chrysler. We just want to be the best.
You're about to witness a crime. The hook, the lift, the choplifter. He's desperate for those meaty, tender chops that look like real meat chops. Don't let your dog become a choplifter. Buy him tender chops.
In Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin and John Candy learned that friendship is honesty.
I don't care to breathe your foot odor.
Trust.
You stole it!
And affection. Paramount's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on video cassette.
Who flies overnight letters for just $8.75? Watch the birdie. Express Mail overnight service from your post office.
Know what time it is?
It's summertime saving time, summertime saving time.
Time to save with Sizzlin's summertime savings on every Mazda in stock. 323-626, MX6, 929. And special factory cash incentives can save you hundreds on Mazda trucks. What time is it?
Saving time. Mazda summertime saving time.
See your Mazda dealer in Clearwater, Tampa, Lakeland, St. Petersburg, Palmetto, and Sarasota.
We don't know why or where or when disasters will shatter lives. We do know why we're there. To put the pieces together. To reaffirm life. The Salvation Army. There because you care.
Friday, house arrest. It's the new wave in criminal incarceration. If it works so well, why are so many against it? Watch 2020 Friday.
Joining us now in the convention hall here in Atlanta, our ABC News floor correspondents, Sam Donaldson, Brit Hume, Jeff Greenfield, Jim Wooten, and Lynn Sherr. Sam, the assault, and it really has been kind of a general assault here on George Bush, is that, do you think, beyond the humor now? They've had their fun. Is that going to be the reality of the campaign, too? It's all going after poor George?
Well, I think a lot of people will do so, but Dukakis, the governor, the nominee, probably won't do it as much. He'll try to take the high road. That's traditional. When the presidential candidate takes the high road and the vice presidential candidate goes at it with hammer and tongs. Of course, to think about Lloyd Bentsen, this distinguished-looking South Texas millionaire, trying to cut up George Bush is a little difficult, but maybe it'll happen.
Brit Hume, what of the issues that these various humorists and cartoonists have been focusing on for the last few minutes, which of those is legitimately the most damaging on both sides now, Democrats against the Republicans and vice versa?
Well, Ted, I really think that the most damaging issue is Bush's personality. I mean, that is what they have made the most issue of. The whole, the silver foot in the mouth and all of that has to do with personality and his background. And I think in his case, that's what hurts the most. In terms of the Democrats, it seems to me that from what we heard in the humorists, we were getting the sense that it was economic issues that the Democrats would get us into trouble there, and that would have some credibility. I suspect that's something that the economy obviously is an issue that both sides are going to try to have. And I think we're going to see a considerable tug of war over it, and the election could well turn on who ends up profiting most from it.
Jeff Greenfield, there was, I know you couldn't see the piece in the cartoon, but there was a devastating cartoon where you see Jesse Jackson with his arm around Mike Dukakis, and they have actually their arms around one another, but the arms are about 9 feet long, and they are as much holding one another at bay as embracing one another. Now that there has been this acclamation, unanimity in the hall tonight, how much of that at arm's length are we still going to see, and how much of an issue is that on which the Republicans can play?
The Republicans have already signaled their clear intention to make Jackson's deal a major issue. I mean, first they said, we want fair play for Jesse, which is, take that with a ton of salt. Now they're saying, come clean, Michael Dukakis. Just what did you promise Jackson? Because they believe Jackson is a very frightening, if I can use that word, figure in large parts of America. And the hope is that just as Ann Richards and Ted Kennedy tried to diminish George Bush, poor George, where was George, the more that the Republicans can joke or make serious points about Dukakis selling out to Jesse Jackson, the more they can diminish Dukakis and make him seem an appendage of Jackson.
Jim Wooten, there is probably nothing tougher in the world than having television cameras focused on you when you're with your family and you're sitting there. It is a great moment. And you're supposed to look as though, well, we're just a bunch of friends here at home with the family all sitting around. But there was that, it almost looked a little more awkward than jubilant picture of the Dukakis family, the governor not wearing any socks, wearing his sneakers, first kind of shunting the champagne away, then sort of grudgingly accepting the champagne. In terms of just the comfort level, and that in this era of television, of course, is terribly important. How do you gauge what kind of a candidate he is going to be?
Well, I really don't think he's very comfortable in moments like that, in staged events, and but he's been on television a lot. As you know, he spent some time on public television, a series called The Advocates, I think. But I've found him all year long a little stiff, a little awkward, as more or less a man who says, all right, we have to do this now because I'm running for president, but let's get on, let's get off, and let's get it over with.
All right, Lynn Sherr, we just want to come to you before the break, and then we'll come to all of you one more time around. Again, I want to stay on that picture that we all saw because I found it was a fascinating tableau. Did you get a chance to see it? I know you were working on the floor.
No, I didn't, Ted, but what you're talking about fascinates me because all of us are talking about the fact that this is going to be a campaign in the long run that may be won or lost in personality. This convention has talked about issues. This